Mm-mm-mm. Hi, everyone. Just one of them days. All right, let's try again. Hi, everybody. Welcome. This is Frequency Friday. My name is Tara, your resident harmony nerd. I'm a professional singer based in New York City, chilling, comfy, cozy in my PJs this morning. I got my coffee. How are you all doing today? Today is Frequency Friday. And Frequency Friday is when we talk about necessary stuff in order to be a creative person, in order to put yourself out into the world. Sometimes we talk about like nervous system regulation or nerves, how we feel about performing. Today, we're going to be talking about the skill, and it is a skill, of learning how to listen to the sound of your own voice. Okay, hear me out. Because I feel like the sound of our own voice makes many of us cringe, right? We don't want to hear our own voice, let alone like record our singing and listen back to it. Okay. Um, but it's an absolutely necessary skill if you want to get better, and it's even more necessary if you want to perform at clubs or bars or even pursue it as a profession. Okay. And why is it so freaking necessary? Because you have to be able to develop the skill to hear the sound of your voice, right? So the first step is that you have to get used to it. Okay. And we'll talk about these all a little bit more in depth. If you want to grab a journal or something to write this down with, if it's something you struggle with, I definitely recommend that. Um, you have to get used to to listening to your own voice first. And for a lot of us, shedding that first layer is the judgment, right? You can't just listen to yourself sing for 10 seconds and turn it off and be like, oh my God, that was so awful. You can if that's where you are, but you need a plan in place in order to move past it. So the first step is to learn to tolerate it. Okay, if you can't tolerate it, and the next step is to remove the judgment. Okay, so first you have to learn to tolerate it, then you have to remove your judgment piece. Okay, and we're gonna talk about that through the lens of internal family systems, which we've talked about quite a bit on these Frequency Fridays. If you're not familiar with internal family systems therapy work, then there's a couple ways that you could become familiar with it. You can watch last week's Frequency Friday, which is posted on my YouTube channel, or in both my Linktree shop and my TikTok shop showcase, there's a book by Richard Schwartz called No Bad Parts. And this is like the introduction to internal family systems by the therapist who created it. Okay. Um, there's also a workbook available, no, an internal family systems workbook available, and that is on my Linktree shop. So if you go to my Linktree, my link in bio, it pops up on links, but there's a little toggle menu at the top, and it says links and then shop. So if you click on the shop one, then the notebook and stuff will pop up. Um, okay, so step one, we're learning to tolerate our singing, the sound of our own voice, listening back to it. Step two is that we're removing the judgment piece. Okay. Step three, maybe we even learn to like it a little bit. Okay. You do have to, because you have to be able to give yourself credit for what you do good and lovingly critique what you need to work on. So there has to be a balance here, okay? So we have to learn to tolerate our voice, we have to remove the judgment, and then start to like it just a little bit. And the liking will grow, right? But we have to just try, okay? And then ultimately, the goal is that we can consume listening to the sound of our own voice, whether it's audio or video, okay? And then we can it's almost like taking ourselves out of our own body, right? Like you have to remove the thought that you're listening to yourself, and you have to essentially become your own vocal coach, right? And say, oh, okay, I really like the way I sang verse 1. Can I bring that same quality to verse 2? You know what? That belty part sounded a little unstable. It wasn't quite there yet. What can I do to help myself to fix it? Right? And sometimes you may not have the answer. Maybe that's when you call a vocal coach in. Um, but it's super important to listen back to yourselves. Now we're gonna dive into these steps a little bit in more depth. But are there any questions? Does anybody have any thoughts or comments? Do you like listening to yourself sing? Like, I would love it if you feel comfortable dropping it in the comments, like where you are on a scale from 1 to 10. Let's say 1 is I absolutely cannot stand the sound of my own voice. I cannot listen to my own voice. And let's say a 10 is I love hearing myself sing. I listen to my own recordings once a day. Maybe more than that. So go ahead and drop your number in the comments, please. Be great to know where we're starting. Also, okay, if we feel too shy, I'll give it another minute. I would say for myself, I would say I'm at like a 7. I will listen to myself and I can definitely hear what I could do better. But sometimes I still really don't like it. And other times I love it. Other times I'm like, oh my God, I'm so good. But it's nice to have that balance because I used to absolutely loathe listening to the sound of my own voice. I couldn't watch myself on video. I couldn't listen back to the sound of my singing voice. I will say it was easier for me when I was young and just starting out in this field. It was a lot easier for me to listen to the sound of my own voice without there being visual, right? So like if it was a video of me, I wouldn't watch it. I would just listen. If it was just audio, like that was preferred, right? Because you all can let me know how you feel about this too. I think that especially being in a female body, growing up and being, an older teenager and a young adult, all of this incoming information from society on how I'm supposed to look, especially if I want to be in the entertainment industry, made it like compounded how hard it was for me to listen to my own voice if I also had to look at myself. And I wasn't happy because I wasn't thin enough or naturally pretty enough or blonde enough or tall enough. There's so many like conventional beauty standards that the entertainment industry demands that women meet, especially young white women. You know what? Actually, I'm not entirely sure that that's true, but that is my experience, right? I'm sure that the industry demands different standards for all different types of people. So I'm going to go ahead and retract my last statement in exchange for something that is a little broader and that is more open to experiences that were not my experience. Working on growing every day. All right. So what do you do? I'm going to give you some pointers, some tips, some tools. What do you do if you absolutely loathe the sound of your own voice and you're on step 1 right now? You can't tolerate the sound of your own singing voice, so you cannot listen back to it. Maybe you play something, play a recording of yourself. Maybe it's just like your practice session that you recorded on your phone. Hold on, excuse me. I'm having some issues here. Okay. Welcome to the vacuuming of the hallway. My apologies. It'll only last about 3 or 4 minutes. So if you're at the point where you absolutely hate listening to your voice, like let's say you put on a recording of yourself, whether it's a professional recording or just like a recording you took on your phone. Can you all hear me still over the vacuum? Would you let me know in the comments? I don't want to keep talking if you can't even hear me. You can hear me still? Okay. Awesome. So if you're at a point where you play a recording of yourself for like 10 seconds and then you have to turn it off because you're like, I hate this. I absolutely cannot do it. The first thing I need you to try, there's a couple things you can try. One is power through, right? Play the recording, close your eyes, lay down, pretend you're going to meditate, and just listen. Maybe don't even listen, just let it play and allow your attention to listen when you're able to listen, and allow yourself to dissociate or leave or not listen when you need to not listen. But try to remain physically present in the same space as you're playing the recording. Right? Where your attention goes, you can allow it. And the other step to this, the other piece to this is like, if your attention wanders, just like in meditation, don't hate yourself for it. Just bring yourself back if you can. And if you can't, lovingly accept that too. Right? You have to meet yourself wherever you are, because if you judge yourself or get upset with yourself for where you are, you can't move forward. You just keep yourself wrapped up and stuck in this same place. Does that make sense? So if that feels too hard and you're not able to even listen or allow the recording of your voice to play in your space while you are also physically present there, the next thing I'm going to suggest is journaling. And what are you going to journal about? Well, let me give you some suggestions. I don't like hearing the sound of my own voice. And maybe that's your prompt. And then you just let yourself get it all out. I don't like it because my 5th grade best friend made fun of my singing voice, or my chorus teacher in 12th grade told me I stink, or my sister is a much better singer than me, so I don't think I sound good in comparison to her, or I don't sound anything like the people I hear on the radio, which I'll have a side tangent about that in a minute. Right? But if you can journal and start to uncover why you hate the sound of your own voice, then you're going to be able to kind of work with the root of it. Thanks for the heart, Tina. It's really important to be honest with yourself here. Because if you're not honest with yourself here, it's going to be like slapping a Band-Aid on it instead of fixing the root of the problem. You have to look the thing in the face if you want to develop the skill of listening to your own singing voice. And if you want to sing, then you need to develop the skill of listening to yourself, because it's the only way you can truly improve. Right? You can have an external person do it. Like, you can come to me as a vocal coach and I can give you tips, and you will improve, but you're going to improve the most when you learn how to hear yourself. Because I can listen to you and I can hear what I think is going on in your body and make suggestions based off of that, but like, you're the only person who actually knows what it feels like to sing inside of your own body. So if you then can develop this skill where you can listen to yourself sing on and lovingly but honestly say, I liked this, I didn't like this, how do I work on the thing I didn't like, you have a much better potential for growth as a vocalist, as a singer, than somebody who refuses to or is unable to do that. So it's really important that you work with whatever is holding you back without judging yourself. Which is the hardest part. It literally is the hardest part. So if we can't tolerate this, listening to recordings of ourselves, if we can't tolerate the sound of our own voice right now, we are trying one of two things. Try both things. See which thing works better for you. You're going to journal about it. You're going to try to find out what belief system is ingrained in you, in your mind, in your body, that makes you feel like you don't sound good enough to be heard. Right? And I think that you'll discover a lot of times that these stories aren't even our own. It's something that was put on us by adults when we were children, by friends, family, society, right? That's huge. And I actually wrote an article that I'm going to be publishing in the next couple of weeks recently about how, like, who benefits off of our silence, you know, and that includes singing. It includes using your voice. You live in a society, at least I'm speaking as an American, but we live in a society in America, and I'd love to hear if you're from somewhere else, like what it's like where you are, where, you know, if you're not the best, you don't get the platform. So that means like only 0.5% of the population or 1% of the population deserves a platform for using their voice. And I mean, that is the world that we live in, right? I mean, social media has changed that for sure. I'm talking to you on a platform right now. You know, but like, ask yourself, this is another thing while you're journaling, who benefits from my silence? Who benefits when I do not use my voice? Because that can be really powerful. And if you've got enough stick it to the man energy in you, that might be enough to push you into being able to tolerate listening to your own voice. So ask yourself as you journal, why can't I tolerate my own voice? Were there formative experiences or beliefs that I am holding on to that are not mine, that I don't need to hold on to? And who is benefiting from my silence? Society of nepotism here. Yeah, I think America is quite similar, Tina. Tina's in Finland, for those of you who don't know. Okay, and hopefully you'll get somewhere journaling. For me, it's very effective. And if journaling isn't working for you, the other thing that I want you to try is this like meditative listening kind of thing, where you just lay down or sit down, close your eyes if you feel comfortable, and just stay still. That's it. Can you keep your body quiet while you play a recording of yourself singing? Remove the visual stimulus. Don't look at yourself. It's easier to do one thing at a time. You don't even have to pay attention. You simply have to tolerate being in the same room while a recording of your voice is playing. You can listen in. You can check out. Whatever you need to do to just get there. Take that first step. Okay? Does anybody have any questions on this first step before we move on to the next step? Okay. So we're learning the skill of listening to our own voice so that we can grow and become better singers. Because it's really hard to do that without being able to accurately hear the sound of our own voice. And if you hate the sound of your own voice, then what you're hearing isn't accurate, right? It's too emotionally charged to be accurate. So now that we're able to tolerate, we've done step one, and we're able to tolerate being in the same room as our voice recording being played. The next thing that we have to work on is the judgment, the emotional charge, right? Because the reason you can't tolerate listening to the sound of your own voice is because you're judging it every second. Yes. Oh, Thina, I love that. Thank you for that suggestion. Thina said, even record your speaking voice. It's a good start if singing is too intimidating. I love that. Thank you for making that point. Yes. Meet yourself where you are. Hopefully without judgment, but that's hard. So that's why we're going to talk about it right now. Because I don't know about you all, but like, I love to sing from when I was a kid, and I started doing it very young, and I started being like in community theater very young and doing like competitive honors choirs and stuff like that. So my parents, I think that they thought they were doing me a favor by cutting other singers down to lift me up, right? But then I, as a child, am absorbing this. The only, like, what makes me better is by saying you stink, right? Which is like not a great way of doing anything, right? And I've worked very hard to kind of siphon that out of myself, but maybe you grew up in a similar environment where it was like, oh, well, Tara does this so good, and that girl, when she sings, it sounds nasally, and oh, she was flat on this part, and like, you know, it's almost like we validate our own talent by cutting other people down. And if you've ever been in an environment like that, then it's a good chance like why you can't listen to your own voice now, right? Because that same judgment, any judgments that we put on other people, we are setting ourselves up to be judged in the same way, right? Like you can't judge. Oh, there went my light. That's okay. We're going to have to do without it. It's dead. It needs a charge. Like whatever judgments you set up for other people, you also have to live by those judgments. Your brain doesn't just save judgments for other people. It judges yourself that same way too. So as you're working to move through judgments of listening to yourself sing, you have to ask yourself, how do I judge others when they sing, right? And you know what's interesting about singing also with like social media and stuff is like everybody has an opinion, and that's okay. But like everybody thinks that their opinion is the opinion, right? And so many of these sessions, these free sessions that I do on TikTok Live and YouTube Live, I feel like, you know, there's somebody in the comments telling me, well, you know, my mom told me I'm not a very good singer. And I'm like, okay, is your mother a professional? Is she qualified to tell you whether you are a good singer or not? Does she understand like the basic building blocks of what it takes to become a good singer? If the answer is no, then like, I'm sorry, like no disrespect to your mom, but don't listen to her opinion. She's not the authority on this. You know? I use cassettes to record. Yeah, I used to do that too. Did you ever have Talk Voice? Do you remember Talk Voice, like from Home Alone? Can we all get a Talk Voice so that we can learn to listen to the sound of our own voices, please? Yes, also a very good point, Thina. Judging and analyzing are a very different thing, but it's a thin line. It is thin, and it can feel really dangerous. Yeah, for sure. But let's talk about this a little bit through the lens of internal family systems. So if you're new to internal family systems, I'm going to give you just like a little quick little nutshell version. And if you want to learn more, you can watch last week's Frequency Friday on my YouTube. Go to Frequency Friday Replays and watch last week's on internal family systems. Same handle. You can also find a direct link to my YouTube or my TikTok on my link tree. If you click in my link tree, up at the top there's a TikTok icon and a YouTube icon, and both of those will bring you right to my profile pages. Please subscribe on YouTube. I'm new there. Please follow me on TikTok. And if you want to read some literature about internal family systems, you can Google it. It was created by Dr. Richard Schwartz. There's also a book he wrote called No Bad Parts, which is available on my TikTok shop as well as my Linktree shop. And there's a workbook as well, but that's not on the TikTok shop. It's only available in my Linktree shop. So if you go to Linktree and there's a toggle at the top between links and shop, if you click shop, you can find the book. There's also an audiobook version of No Bad Parts, which is cool because you get to listen to the therapist interview some people, but it does make it a little bit harder when you're listening to do the exercises on your own because you don't have it written in front of you. Okay, so what is this internal family systems? So it's almost like multiple personalities inside of us, which has been deemed like crazy for so long, right? So nobody wants to talk about different parts because we've made it seem like there's something psychologically wrong if there are different parts inside of you. But we also have this human experience and we all understand that there are different parts inside of all of us. And so like one of these parts, right? And there are, let me break it down, right? So there's like regulated parts, like your self energy, higher self, okay? Like the wise part of you that just knows, okay? And then there are what we call protectors, okay? And these are the guys that are going to step in if they feel like you are being threatened at all. And then there is another category called firefighters. And these are the guys who are going to step in when you're overwhelmed, when you're stressed, when you can't handle something, when your nervous system is in fight or flight. And these firefighters are going to come in with behaviors to help you numb, to help you dissociate, right? But the most important thing about internal family systems is to understand that there are no bad parts. That's why the book is called No Bad Parts. They all are trying to help you. They are all on your team. They all want you to be safe and happy and healthy, and they're all trying to assist you in being happy and healthy, but in the only way they know how, right? The only way the protector knows how to protect you is by being defensive. The only way the firefighter knows how to protect you is by sitting down in front of Netflix and numbing out with snacks, or whatever it is. And then there's a shame piece on top of it because we feel like we should be doing better than numbing or being defensive. So then we also feel shame about our parts, right? So there's a lot of things wrapped up in here. And I will say that, so one of these protector parts is the judger, right? So if we are wanting to develop the skill to listen to the sound of our own voice so that we can lovingly critique our performance to get better, we have to make amends with this judger, right? Because the judger is going to shut you down before you even get to listen to 2 full lines of yourself singing. It's going to be, oh, you're flat. Oh, this sucks. Oh, I can't even stand this anymore. Let's turn it off. Okay? And that judger is trying to protect you. What is it trying to protect you from? Your own judgment? Right? Maybe something else, right? Like that's for you to figure out on your own. That's for you to decide. But we have to have a conversation with the judger, with the part of us that judges ourselves and likely judges other people as well in this space, in this singing space. And be curious about it. Can you unwrap the shame from your judger long enough to have a conversation with it? You don't have to feel shame about having different parts, but a lot of us do. So we have to kind of thaw the shame so that we can then talk to the protector underneath. How would this look like? Let's walk you through it. Let's do a little example together. Okay, so I'm going to go into my internal world and I'm going to have a conversation between my judger and myself, my self energy, my higher self, my wise, wisdomous parts, okay? And in my head, maybe I close my eyes because it helps me go inward better. So I'm going to picture two tiny me's. And this is just what I like to picture. You do whatever you want. Almost like Lego size, little Terras, okay? And there's this one that is this kind of like higher self energy, and then there's this one that it's her job to judge. And so my little higher self is going to get curious about my little judgy self, and she's going to say, hey, how are you today? Like, I have some questions for you. Can we have a conversation? And the judger may say, absolutely not, get away from me. In which case, you want to give it some space. You don't want to force these conversations. You will know when you're ready to have them. I know if you haven't been through this work yet, you're probably like, how will I know? You will. You will know. It's very intuitive. Okay? And so now we're saying to ourselves, let's say the judger says, yes, we can have a conversation. Okay. So higher self is asking, I noticed that you've, really been quite harsh on our own, when we listen back to our own singing voice. Like, may I ask, like, what are you hoping to accomplish in being so harsh in your judgments? And the judger will give you an answer back, especially if you practice this. It might say, well, you got made fun of in the 5th grade for singing, so I don't want that to happen to you again. So I'm trying to stop you before you start. Or it might say, we don't want other people to ridicule us, so we're going to, again, stop before we even start. And then, I would offer to you that the same part of our brain that processes physical pain processes social rejection. So, hi, Fairy House. Nice to see you today. Thanks for the heart, Nate. So you can use that knowledge for your higher self to say, hey, you know what? I understand that we process pain the same way we process rejection, right? It's so painful. So I understand why, judger, you feel so intent on protecting me from having to feel that pain. But guess what? Like, it's 2025. We're an adult person now. We're no longer that 5th grader who was told she was bad. We're no longer, unable to protect ourselves. And this isn't a life or death situation. I understand that social rejection in the past could have meant not living if you were excommunicated from a group when we were hunter-gatherers. But like, our evolution isn't keeping up with the evolution of society. So we have to say to this judger, this protector, look, this is not life or death. I'm just trying to get better at singing here. Do you think that maybe you could sit down for a little bit and give me the space to explore what it might feel like to listen to the sound of my own voice? And if you need to chime in every once in a while, that's okay, right? Like, you have to allow all the parts of your different self to be seen. Does that make sense? Are there any questions or comments? This is dense stuff, so let me know how you're feeling. If you're just joining us, welcome. This is Frequency Friday. We're talking about how to develop the skill of listening to your own voice, because you have to be able to listen to yourself sing with a lovingly critical ear in order to improve, especially if you want to do this as like a paid hobby or even as a professional. We have to be able to hear the sound of our own voice. And for so many people, it's a struggle. So step 1 that we talked about was learning to tolerate the sound of your own voice. And I gave 2 options for that, which if you want to learn about them more in depth, you can watch the replay of this on YouTube, Frequency Friday replays, okay? And the two things that I offer I'm I'm sorry. Oh, life in Brooklyn. It's very windy today. Something was just outside my window, so I turned to look and it was trash. I live on the 7th floor, y'all. There's no reason trash should be floating by my window. And this is the first time I've ever experienced it. I'm sorry, that just tickled me so much. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. So if you are learning the skill of listening to the sound of your own voice, right? Step 1 is that you have to be able to tolerate it, because so many of us have been taught or trained or developed this loathing of listening to our own voices, whether we're singing or speaking. So what we're trying to do is first learn to tolerate the sound of our recorded voice, okay? And Tina made a great suggestion. If, singing feels too hard, then start with speaking, okay? And we're going to try one of two things, which is journaling and trying to get to the bottom of this loathing. And the other thing is almost like meditating while listening to the recording of your voice, whether it's singing or speaking. And just step 1 is just being in the same room. Can you lay down and play the recording and just stay in the same room? Listening in when you can, dissociating when you need to, okay? If you want to... like I said, if you want more information on that, step 1, we already covered it. Go ahead and watch the replay. It's automatically posted to YouTube once the stream is over, okay? And then what we're just talking about now was step 2, which is the judgment piece, right? So now we can tolerate our own voice, listening to the sound of our own voice, because we did step 1. And then the next step is working with the judger inside of us and understanding that the judgments we put on other people are also judgments that we have to put on ourselves. Understanding that the part of you that is judging is just trying to protect you and making friends with it because of that. And understanding too that the part that is trying to judge you, what is it trying to protect you from? Social rejection. And social rejection is as painful as physical pain. Our brains process it the same way. Okay, so this is step 2, working with that judger, right? And also, as Athena pointed out, judgment and analyzing, right? It's a fine line. And how do we toe that line? We have to, and this is the hardest thing I'm going to say this whole session. Write this down if you can, or screen record it if you're on your phone. Okay, the line, it's a very thin line between judgment and analyzing. How do we toe the line? Judgment involves our self-worth. Analyzing does not. That's the fine line. Judging your voice means there's something wrong with you. There is shame wrapped up in how you feel about your own voice, your own performance. It says something about you. This singing voice says something about me. I'm not worthy. I stink. I don't deserve to sing, right? That's judgment. Analyzing is, I could have had more breath support on that high note. I think it would have sounded different. It doesn't say anything about me, who I am, what my worth is. It's like, hey, I've been working on this skill. I noticed a weak point that I can work on. Okay. It doesn't inform anything about me as a person, as the quality of human that I am. It's separating yourself from the skill. I'm not inherently good because I can sing. I'm not inherently bad because I can't sing. I'm not inherently bad because I went flat on the high note, right? You have to detach yourself from believing that how you sing informs what kind of a person you are. They're two totally separate things. And so we have to uncouple, right? If you are judging, if you can't listen to the sound of your own voice right now because you're too judging on yourself, that means that you have an idea in your head. These things are wrapped up in each other, right? That I'm not a good enough singer, and that says something about who I am as a person. maybe it does. Like, maybe it actually does. Don't be afraid to explore that either. You know what? The reason these things are wrapped up in itself is because I want to be good at this and I know I should be practicing more, but I'm not doing it. That's why I'm judging myself. Okay. So in this point, then the judgment is wrapped up in our self-worth. And how do we unwrap them? We say, okay, this is important to me enough that I'm actually going to practice. Right? When you work with this judgment piece, if you find something legitimate that is actually wrapped up in your self-worth, I'm judging myself because I'm not doing this thing that I know I want to do, then you have to face that, because the judgment is never going to uncouple with your self-worth until you face that thing. Right? And so let's run with this example. Let's say, okay, I am judging myself, and the reason I can't listen to myself sing on a recording without judgment is because I know I would be so much better if I would just put the time in to practice, even if it's just 5 minutes a day. But I really want to do it, and I can't get myself to do it. Okay, so then we have 2 options here. 3. We figure out a way to start doing the thing. Does it actually mean that much to you? It must, because it's impacting your self-worth, right? And like, what is more important than saving yourself from depleting your own self-worth? If practicing 5 minutes a day is going to make your self-worth feel greater, and it's going to uncouple this judging of your singing, because now you're like, oh, well, I am putting the work in. So now I don't have to judge my voice, because when I'm listening and I'm analyzing, I know that I'll just keep working on that thing and it'll get better. Right? So if you find that your judgment is actually coupled with a legitimate want or need, you need to move towards that thing. So that's one option. The other option is to not move towards the thing, but then you have to like let it go. Right? Otherwise you're going to remain. And the third thing is to just remain at war with yourself, which is an awful choice, right? So we either have to listen to ourselves and figure out a way to do the thing. We have to give up on it. Or we continue to fight ourselves. Like, those are the only 3 choices. Okay? And the giving up might be not even a bad thing. It might be, you know what? I really would like to sing, but I just don't think it's realistic that I'm going to practice. So maybe I need to let this go and just sing for fun. That's okay too. Like, whatever you decide for yourself is okay. All right, so let's say now that using all these tools, you've been able to start detaching the judgment. And it's a slow process. Please listen to me when I say this. This is not like blink your eyes and wake up the next day and all of a sudden you can hear the sound of your own voice. I worked on this for years. I was a professional singer for years before I could tolerate the sound of my own voice. And then I realized that I was plateaued because I couldn't listen to the sound of my own voice. So how was I going to get better? Right? Because a vocal coach can only take you so far because they don't know what you're feeling inside of your instrument. At some point, you have to work with what you feel inside. Nobody else can do that for you, right? So, hey, Des, nice to see you today. So let's say you've been able to, so it's a slow process, right? You can't expect to just open your eyes one morning and play a recording of yourself and there's no judgment at all. No. It's baby steps. It's little by little. And you want to celebrate every time that you're able to analyze yourself without judgment. So maybe you just listen to like a verse of a song that you recorded and you're like, oh God, I hate the sound of my voice. But you know what? Okay, take a deep breath. Let's listen. And then you want to start to find things you like. Okay? I think it's easier to start by finding things you like than it is to start with analyzing. Okay? One thing, even if it's one note. I sang that really in tune. I really like the way that phrase sounded. Wow, I actually hit that belty note today. You have to start to learn to become your own biggest fan and cheer yourself on. And you know what? If you really struggle with it, maybe you have a cohort. Maybe you ask someone else to listen to it. Say, I'm trying to learn how to listen to to how to listen to and analyze my own singing voice, but I'm too emotionally attached to it. Would you be willing to listen to this 30-second thing and tell me a couple things you liked? Like, I'm not looking for criticism right now. I'm just like looking to boost my confidence, you know? So you start listening for things you like. And when you start being able to give yourself credit for the good stuff, for the stuff that you like, 1 second, please. When you start giving yourself credit for what you do well, then it's easier to separate yourself from what you do poorly, right? Because when we're saying, hey, I did a good job on that high note, we're not attaching that to our self-worth either. None of this is attached to our self-worth, and that is the goal, right? It's not, oh, I hit the high note, I'm a diva, look at me, I'm so much better than everybody else. No. Being good is awesome, but it doesn't qualify or disqualify any amount of self-worth. And hitting a sour note, same thing. So we're trying to just uncouple this self-worth from good or bad, because it's all subjective. Okay, so then the next step is to get to the point where you can start to listen to yourself and you're like, okay, you know what? I really liked that second verse tone. I didn't really like what I did on the first verse. Is there a way that I can bring the tone of the second verse to the first verse? Can I recreate that? And can I bring it to other parts of the song? Right? Because then you get to operate from this place of curiosity instead of your self-worth being attached to your vocal performance. And I think that it's a skill that will take more time for some people than others. But it is possible. It is attainable. So then, we're at our final step 3, which is where we can listen to ourselves, emotionally detached, right? Pretend it's somebody else's voice. Maybe it's not your own voice. That will help. And because we've uncoupled judgment, judging our own voice from our self-worth, we're now able to listen lovingly and critically. And here, I had poor breath support. It sounded like my breath support was off on that moment. Can I practice again and think about my breath support? Doesn't make a difference. Because then you can trial and error coach yourself. Did I miss a comment by Tina? I'm like a quote machine. Must be ovulating. I'm darker normally. That's hilarious. I'm ovulating, Tina. We're synced up across the world. Look at us. I've been getting really into cyclical living. I've been taking this course on female nervous system. Tina says, anything can be learned. Not knowing how to do something is just a phase of not being there yet. Yes, I agree with that 100%, Tina. Did I miss anything else that you said? I'm scrolling. Thank you for sharing the live, Fairy House. Okay, I think I got it. Oh, hi, Mel. I think I missed you, but hi. If you're still here. Yes, you are definitely a quote machine today, Tina. Fantastic. Okay. And what's here, another way too that you can, if you want to learn how to lovingly listen to your voice without judgment, take a vocal assessment from me. I know that's like a selfless plug, but I've learned how to do this for myself, so I could do it for anyone else. And I've been a professional in the industry for 15 years. So you can book a vocal assessment and come sing with me online. And if you're not ready to do that, you can send me recordings. And you know what? I just had this thought too. I would love to hear your feedback in the chat. I mean, I can also have an offering where you send me a recording of your voice, of you singing. And I send you back a voice recording, just spoken, of how I would talk to myself when analyzing, so that you have a model, something to work off of. Let me see, actually. Let's try it. Let's see what happens if we do a little example right now. Let's see. I'll be right back. I need to record myself. All right. So I'm going to record myself right now singing a verse and a chorus of something, okay? And then I'm going to listen back, and I'm going to share out loud how I would listen back to myself, like criticizing, in order to get better at the song. Any song requests in the chat? Hey, Jeffrey. It's also windy in Philadelphia. I love Philadelphia. I have Human Nature stuck in my head. Why? Da ba da da, Human Nature. Ba ba ba. All right. Let's do Amazing Grace. I've been using that one a lot. I feel like everybody knows that song. Ironic. I do love Ironic. I would have to look up the words for sure. I'm gonna do Amazing Grace because I feel like more people know it. Although I'd rather sing Ironic. Traffic jam when you're already late. A no smoking sign. I'm also not warmed up, so this will be really great because I'll have a lot of things to say. Okay. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. Ooh. Okay. All right. So now we're going to listen back to that. I could tell you things that I would have improved upon right now without even listening, but that's not what we're working on today. We're working on listening to the sound of our own voice. All right? Oops. Or we're shutting off our iPad totally. Okay, ready? This is how I listen to myself. And how I would love for you to work towards listening to yourself by using all the tools we've talked about today. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound. Okay. Opportunity to move further into my chest voice there. Like me. Opportunity to improve upon the vocal register switch. Opportunity to open that sound more, to show more emoting. Opportunity to sink more into lower register. Opportunity to lean more into that I. Okay. Opportunity to have better breath support at the end there on that high note. All right. So I've like reframed the language I used. I have opportunities to improve this. It doesn't say anything about me. It doesn't say anything about my self-worth. It just says, oh, I could utilize the more rich sound in my lower register at these two certain points. I could use better breath control at this end where I decided to sing this high note. I decided to do a register flip at one point, and it was very shaky. Right? But I'm not warmed up at all either. So just kind of taking notice of all these things. Opportunity to open up and put some more breath behind some of the beltier parts to make it sound more emotional. All right? And then maybe I take that feedback for myself and I re-record it. Trying to take those notes I've given myself and see if I like it any better. At the end of the day, it's subjective. The only person you have to please is yourself. So why let your judger get in the way? Right? Remember, they're trying to protect you. So quick little recap wow, it's late. Before I log off here, we're talking about, yeah, it is right. We're talking about learning to listen to the sound of our own voice. And we broke this down into 3 steps. If you're just joining us, feel free to go back and watch the replay on YouTube. You'll go to Resident Harmony Nerd. You can find it in my link tree. And you'll subscribe to my YouTube. And then you're going to find the Frequency Friday playlist. And you're going to rewatch this one from today, okay? And the 3 steps that we talked about in learning to listen to the sound of your own voice is 1, being able to tolerate it. You have to be able to tolerate it first. Step 2 is working with your judger, the piece of you that judges yourself and other people, and uncoupling that from your self-worth. Okay? When you judge your voice, you're judging your self-worth. When you analyze your voice, you're making your voice better without it saying anything about who you are. It's detached. It's uncoupled from who you are as a person. It's simply a skill that you're working on. Okay? And then step 3 is being able to analyze, right? Being able to actually listen and lovingly critique. Oh, I did this well. Oh, I didn't do this well. I have an opportunity to do better here. Right? Think of it all. It's like growth mindset. You want to think of it like, this is my opportunity to do better, not, oh my God, I suck and I should never sing again. Right? They're 2 different sides of the coin, and it's a very hard coin to flip. It's a very hard coin to flip. But you can do it. You can do it. And the cool thing is, when you do this kind of work here in this part of your life, it reflects in every single freaking part of your life. Let me tell you. But it's hard work. Ooh, we made a goal. Thank you. Got a rose. Appreciate it. So for those who don't know, my name is Tara, your resident Harmony Nerd. I'm a professional singer based in New York City, vocal coach, singing teacher, and content creator. I have different free offerings every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Today was Frequency Friday. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the skill of listening to the sound of your own voice, which can be really tricky for a lot of us. So I hope that you learned something today that you can take with you that will help you improve this skill. We have Music Theory Monday, Ear Training Tuesday, Warm Up Wednesday, Free Voice Lesson Thursday, and these Frequency Fridays. They are all pre-scheduled. If you're on TikTok, you can go to my profile right below my picture. To the left, you'll see live events. Click on that and all the different live events I have scheduled will pop up, and you can pre-register so that TikTok will remind you when I'm live in your own time zone. If you're on YouTube, you're going to go to my homepage and you're going to scroll past my shorts and you'll see upcoming live streams, and you can click on that little notify me button, and then YouTube will also keep you in the loop for when I go live on YouTube. So I do have a full schedule next week. I am in the process of moving. So if something gets canceled, it'll be on my TikTok stories. Or if you pre-register, I will always reach out via DM to let you know, hey, I had to reschedule this, or like I had to cancel it, right? So I don't leave you like hanging. And the first week in April, there will not be any sessions because I'm moving and traveling. I literally am moving on Monday, and then I'm flying to a gig on Tuesday. I'm like, help, I'm so scared. I think it's going to be quite a hard week too, because you all know I have my cute little kitty cat too. Like my friend is going to babysit him while I'm traveling, and the whole thing is just like, I'm excited and I'm looking forward to it, but it's also like stressful just being in this time, preparing for it, because I'm packing up stuff and having to, pack my apartment into a storage unit and pack a bag for a gig in Mexico and a gig in South Carolina, and then come back to New York, and I'm having an oral surgery and just a lot of stuff going on. All of this just to say, the first week in April, there will likely be no sessions, but next week we have a full week. So thank you for all your knowledge. You're so welcome. Thank you for being here and listening to me and being part of the community. I love it. Wowzers, good luck with it all. Thank you. I will take your good luck. I appreciate it. Jeffrey says, nice live stream today. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you for always showing up. It's awesome. I really appreciate it. You are like my YouTube ride or die. I appreciate it, Jeffrey. Thank you so much. All right. Yes. Prayers for it all and fast healing. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. All right, my love. So Music Theory Monday is scheduled for a time that I will share with you once my calendar app opens. All right, I have a haircut Monday. Okay, so it's scheduled for noon. Music Theory Monday is scheduled for 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Do I have a topic? I can't remember if I have a topic or not. Is there anything anybody wants to learn? We'll figure it out. All right. All right, my dears. Have a lovely day.